Okay, unit test review. Write an inequality for each graph. So you can clearly see we got -7. You want to pick a variable x. You need to put it first in the sentence. And then it's going that way, so it'll be less than, no equals. Okay, this one would be x with 2. It's going right, so greater than or equal to, because it's closed. Okay, now when I have graphs that are going in opposite, or they're spreading apart, okay, that means it's or, so x can be 2, it can be greater than 2, not equal, or x could be -6, less than or equal. Okay, now we have x being between -3 and 2, so you got x, -3 and 2, and I'm going to show this again. Pick a number between -3 and 2 and just put it down here. Let's go 1. Well, 1's bigger than -3, it'd eat the 1, 1 and 2, 2's bigger, eats a 2. That is why when they go between, they're both less than signs. But neither circle is, both circles are open, so no equals. And you ignore the 0 unless the circle is above the 0. Okay. Solve the inequality, graph your solutions, label your graph. You have to find all possible values for the variable to make the inequality true. So x plus 3 is greater than or equal, or less than or equal to 16. So I need a number line, okay? And we need to get the x by itself. So it just has a +3, we need a -3. Sign never switches when you're minusing. -3, -3. So you have x, 13. So 13 is your critical number. You close the circle and it's less than, so it goes this way. So x, 13, less than or equal. Okay, number 6, kind of a tricky one. It doesn't look like much, but there you got to be paying attention. 81's greater than or equal to -9x. So x is on this side. We got -9 times x, so I circle the times. So I need to divide on this problem by -9, and since I'm going to be dividing by a negative number, the sign needs to flip. So I divide by -9, divide by -9. So the x is behind the symbol. 81 divided by -9 is -9. Now, see, you always need the x. To graph it correctly, you need the x in front of the inequality. Now it's behind, so that's when you have to do the reorder. So you put x, -9, and then you switch the sign then. So you switch the sign twice. First because you divided by negative, and second because you had it in the wrong order where the variable came after the inequality symbol. So you have -9. The circle's closed and it's greater than or equal to. So x greater than or equal to -9. Okay, number 7, -1/4 times x greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so you circle that. And you're going to be dividing by -1/4. So again, we're dividing by a negative. So I divide by -1/4. 8 divided by -1/4 is actually -32. Alright, because when you divide by a fraction that's less than 1 whole, that number increases, okay? So that we don't need to reorder that. We have the x in front of the symbol. It says x can be any number less than or equal to -32. So it's closed, less than, that goes that way, okay? Okay, I want to add a problem down here, please. Okay. X divided by 4 less than 2. And down here, I'm going to add x divided by -3 is greater than 10. Okay. So let's do this one. 2x is less than or equal to 4x plus 10. So we have like terms of x on opposite sides. Now normally, when it's just an equals, we just take out the smaller one. But with inequalities, you want to take out the one that's on the right. So I minus 4x from 2x, and we end up with negative 2x, 2 minus 4, 10. Okay, now x is just on one side. The reason why I take it from the right side is because then I won't have to reorder it at the end of the problem, which is always nice. So to get x by itself, we just have to divide, and the number we're going to be dividing by is negative, so the sign flips. So we have x in front of the symbol, that's good, negative 5. Circle, close your circle, and then greater than goes this way. Okay, next one. X divided by 4 is less than 2. So this time we have x with a division. So I need to times 4. Now timesing's like division. If you're going to multiply by a negative, the sign flips, but I'm multiplying each side by a positive to get the x by itself, so it will not flip. So you have x, and 2 times 4 is 8. So x is less than 8. Circle, it's open, less than, that takes us this way. X can be any number that way. Okay, number 9, we have 6 times the quantity x minus 1 is less than negative 18 plus 6x. So it's just a single inequality. So the first thing we have to do is distribute 6 to x and 6 to negative 1. Make that minus a plus negative. Sign doesn't flip when you're distributing. 6x plus negative 6, and over here we have negative 18 plus 6x. Now I have like terms of x, they're on opposite sides, but if you look carefully they're the same. So when they're the same, you cross them out. You ain't going to need your number line, and this is either all solutions or no solutions. Okay, so you look at your bigger number, the negative 6. Is the symbol eating that number? No, it's not. So that is a no solution. Okay, it's eating the wrong number to make that sentence true. Negative 6 less than negative 18. No, it's not. It's greater than. It's got to be eating this number. Okay, x divided by negative 3 is greater than 10. So we have x on this side with a divide by. So we need to times each side by negative 3. So I'm timesing each side by a negative number. The sign needs to flip. So we have x, 10 times negative 3 is negative 30. Okay, easy enough. Leave the circle open, and less than, of course, takes us that way. Okay, on the next page we have our compound inequalities. Okay, negative 1 is less than or equal to x minus 3, which is less than 2. So a compound inequality, we want to make a table to separate it into two separate inequalities. So on one side we're going to have negative 1. Just drop your signs down there. So we have negative 1 and then x minus 3. And over here with the second less than, we have the expression x minus 3, and then we have 2. Now you solve it. Get the x by itself. So you just have a negative 3 to add. You're going to add 3. Sign doesn't change. So negative 1 plus 3 is 2, and then you have x. Negative 3 plus, but that needs to be reordered, okay? Because you need x to be in front of the symbol, and when you have to reorder it, the sign has to switch. 2 is less than x is greater than 2. Now we're not going to have to reorder when I'm done on this side, because we just do the same thing, but it will be in the order I want it, with the x coming in front of the inequality symbol, and then the 5 coming behind it. Okay, so the critical numbers are 2 and 5. Both the circles need to be closed because they both say equals. So you're greater than 2, but you're less than 5. Now label that properly, please. You put x, you put 2, you put 5. Okay? Now, if you are confused about what signs to put, pick a number to put in for the x down here to the side. Let's pick 4. Well, 2 and 4, it has to eat the 4. 4 and 5, it has to eat the 5. Once again, an illustration that is always less than. Okay? Put your lines underneath, okay? And also, x and 2, it has to eat the x. Well, it's eating the x here, isn't it, between the 2 and the x? X and 5, it's eating the 5. Well, it's eating the 5 there too. Okay, number 11, 8 plus 2x greater than or equal to 4, or negative 3x greater than 30. Okay, so get x by itself, you got a plus and a times, so you need to minus the 8, which doesn't change the sign. When you divide, you'll be dividing by a positive 2, so the sign won't switch either on the dividing. So 2 times x, 4 minus 8 is negative 4, and I'm dividing each side by positive 2, so you'll have x greater than or equal to negative 2. Now over here, negative 3. You have to divide, but you have to divide by negative, so you got to remember to flip the sign. That is the same rule every time. If you're dividing by negative, you flip the sign. So we have negative 2 and negative 10. Both the circles get closed, and you're greater than negative 2, but you're less than 10. Whoops, I should not have closed that. That should be open, okay? Because it's no equal. So that's an OR. So an OR, that's greater than, so x negative 2 greater than or equal to x negative 10, that's less than, and there's no equal to, okay? It's open circle. Okay, absolute value. We got the absolute value x minus 6 is greater than or equal to 1. Well, first off, label your absolute value as d. And we're going to bring the expression with inside the absolute value over here, okay? Because there's two possibilities for the absolute value. All right, so just put d is greater than or equal to 1. So d is by itself, okay? The d value is 1. To have a distant, d stands for distance. To have a distance of 1 from 0, you can be at positive 1 or negative 1. So you use the given symbol for the positive, but you flip on the negative side. Again, don't write this down, but the reason why you flip is because 1, negative 1. This means distance from 0, so greater than 1 means the distance has to grow from 1. So yeah, the positive one's greater, but the distance would also grow and get bigger in this direction. Well, that's less than, okay? You just have to remember the sign flips when on the negative side. So you have to add 6, we won't change the sign. So you have x greater than or equal to 7. Same thing going on here, but now you're adding 6 to negative 1, and you get 5. Okay, though that needs to be graphed because they're inequalities. So you got 5, you got 7. You circle both of them. You fill both of them, I should say. Greater than 7, less than 5. So you write or because they're going apart. Okay, that is how you label them when they're going apart. You just simply label them separately. When they go in between, that's where you put x in the middle and you use a double less sign. Okay, solve the equations. We have the absolute value of 5x plus 2 equals 12. These don't have greater than or less than, so we don't have to graph. Okay, we are still bringing in d for the absolute value. The absolute value expression is 5x plus 2. Okay, so d equals 12, so the d, we know the distance is 12, but that could be at 12 or negative 12. Now we get x by itself, so you got a minus 2 and divide by 5. You don't have to worry about a sign flipping because it's just an equals. 10. Divide by 5, you get 2. Okay, now here, minus 2, 5 times x equals negative 14. Divide by 5, and that is going to be negative 2.8. Okay, so those are your possible solutions for the variable. Remember, d has to equal a positive. If it equals a negative, it's no solution. Number 14, 3 times the absolute value of x plus 2, and then after the absolute value ends, we have a plus 4 equals 13. Now, you do not distribute. That is not a parentheses. You need to be replacing your absolute value with d, and you will bring that x plus 2 over here, because you know there's always 2 possible distances from 0. Now, I've got 3 times d plus 4 equals 13. 3 times d plus 4 equals 13. This crap you leave out. Now you get d by itself. Okay? You get a minus 4 and divide by 3. So it's 9. Then divide by 3, and d equals 3, but that could be 3 or negative 3. Minus 2, I get 1. Minus 2, we get negative 5. Okay, now story problems. Your goal in history is to get a 90 average for your test. So far you've gotten a 95, 86, and 93 on your test. Write and solve an inequality of possible scores you can get on your next test and meet your goal. Goal is greater than or equal to, and the goal is 90. Now you go up here and set and write an expression for the average. So you know that's adding, dividing by how many there are. So far I've taken a test and got 95, 86, and 93. Make sure you don't add 90, that's the goal. Okay, but I'm about to take another test, which I don't know what I'm going to get on it because I haven't taken it yet, so that's a variable. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 tests. Now this needs to be simplified. You can't divide by 4 because you don't know what that x is, but you can add at least the 3 that you've already taken. 274. So write that expression, x plus 274 divided by 4. Okay, now we solve for x. Now x is on this side, and the whole side is divided by 4. So you have to do this in a different order than you're used to. Okay, you need to times by 4 first, and then you're going to minus the 274. So when I times, it's going to be by a positive, so the sign won't change. 90 times 4 is 360, and over here I have x plus 274. Okay, then I just get rid of the 274 by subtracting 274, which doesn't flip the sign either. And that's 86, so x is greater than or equal to 86. Circle, fill it, greater than goes this way. Okay, you have 200 feet of fence to put around a rectangular garden. The width of the garden is 40 feet. Write and solve an inequality of possible lengths of the garden. Okay, now half is less than or equal, because you can't go over, you have 200 feet. Now, what are you doing with the 200 feet? You're putting it around 4 sides of a rectangle, but there are 2 L's and 2 W's. 2 L's, 2 W's. So that's 2 times L plus 2 times W. Okay. Now we have to find the length, so we have to put this 40. It says the width of the garden's 40, so 40 is going in for W. So instead of 2 times W, we now know it's 2 times 40, which is 80. So 2 times L plus 80 is less than or equal to 200. Okay, you have to minus the 80, which doesn't change the sign. When you divide, it's by a positive, so that's not going to change either. So that's 120, and then 2 times L. So L is less than or equal to 60. You need to graph that. So less than goes this way, and if you're going less than on a story problem, you want to kind of block off. I won't dock you for not doing that, but technically you can't go into the negatives on a length. Okay. All right, then the last problem. You're cutting sheets from metal. Each sheet should be 34¼ feet long and 30.85 feet wide. The lengths and widths must be within 0.1 of the desired size. Write inequalities that represent the range, both the length and the width. So the range, I go right to my number line graph, but I don't put 0 because you can't measure a length as a negative. You have a minimum and a maximum on both the length and the width. So what's your length supposed to be? 34.25, just put that above, but you can go over and under that by a certain amount. The width is 30.85, and you go over that and under that by a certain amount. So I'm going to add and subtract a certain amount from each of these. Now what I add and subtract is known as the variation. It'll either say it's the variation or that within means it's the variation. So that means that's what you're going to add and subtract on both of these. 34.25 plus 0.1 is 34.35. And then I minus, and that's going to be 34.15. So you want to close your circles because you can be equal to either one of these, and then anything in between. So use L as your variable, put the lowest here, and the highest here. Now again, those between, you have to use the double less signs, okay? Like that. Okay, then width. When you add, you get 30.95. When you subtract, you get 30.75. So that means I could be equal to those amounts and anything in between. So when a variable can be in between two things, there you go. Okay. Both less.